I still believe that each of us has a battle that we have to fight alone. It could be a battle for personal success in our career, a battle against peer pressure, a battle for health, a battle for personal development, or a battle against past traumas that we still haven't overcome and are stuck with. We're tired of it, we fight it, and sometimes we close ourselves off. We don't want to and don't dare share it with anyone because we don't feel safe, even with those closest to us. There are things we don't dare share with them. This is very common, not uncommon at all. Even I have encountered cases where people very close to me have obvious sadness, but when I ask what's wrong, they don't answer. And in my case, sometimes I'm the same way. There are times when I have thoughts and feelings that are so sad that people around me notice, but when they ask, I still say it's okay for many reasons. First, I don't feel safe speaking out. Second, I know that speaking out may not be helpful. Third, I understand that besides myself, probably no one can help me. I'm not saying whether these thoughts are right or wrong. I'm just saying that I have that mindset in those moments. And it's paradoxical in this way. We don't want to share the problems and battles we're going through with others. We're not ready to open up, but at the same time, we feel lonely. We feel like we wish someone could help us overcome this, and we fall into a cycle of contradiction with no way out. We want to close our hearts, yet we want someone to come and help us. We feel stressed, anxious, and the situation could get worse, right? Then there's another thing. I just mentioned one reason, which is that we don't want to share our problems with others, but there's actually another situation. We share, but others don't understand. They don't feel it. Have you ever experienced this situation? You express your thoughts and you think you've spoken very clearly, fully, and in detail, and it's so easy to understand from your perspective. But what's the result? People don't understand. They don't understand a bit about your thoughts, desires, and problems. Try to remember that moment. What do you see? You see extreme disappointment. For example, in a romantic relationship, you have your reasons. You speak out, but the other person often doesn't seem to understand at all. It's a dead-end relationship. Or when you have a dream, a desire, and you find it very reasonable and legitimate, but you speak out and your family doesn't understand, doesn't support you, you feel devastated. These are two of many delicate situations where, despite our best efforts to express ourselves, no one understands. And so we have to fight alone. We face those problems alone, completely lonely, completely hurt, completely isolated. I don't want to make you feel like life is unfair, but I live. And I don't like it when people have problems and they act as if nothing is wrong with life, as if everyone is happy and these problems are probably nothing, or they just ignore them. That's even worse. One thing is for sure, from my personal experience and from probing and observing those around me, my friends, I think there are many cases where there are stories that can't be told, battles that can't be expressed, and they have to fight alone. So in those situations, what should we do? I spent a few minutes just describing the situation so you understand. Actually, I think that's a useful method, a form to help you feel more empathy with this article. Someone said this, I forget who, but they said that sometimes you don't need anyone to help you solve the problem. Just them saying or writing something that speaks your heart is enough to feel comforted, relieved. I believe in this, and when I wrote this article, I promised myself that before going into solutions, I had to speak for the hearts of those who are having problems. Although I didn't go into details because, in reality, the details of each specific story can be very terrible, very bad, and not suitable to be spoken openly, so I chose to speak in a universal, general way, like other articles with a philosophical touch. People who are outsiders don't understand, but those who are insiders understand immediately, empathize immediately. So the beginning parts of this article are like that. Anyone who's been through it understands it all. And I hope that even though I haven't helped you with anything yet, I can empathize and give you the feeling that the situation you may be facing also happens a lot. And first, you're not alone. Second, there are many people who understand you. They just don't express, share, and speak out. So today, maybe I'm the one speaking out to understand. Maybe I still experience the same situations as you in the past, now, or even in the future. Who knows? And the people I know also experience this a lot. So you're not alone, not isolated. The battles you're going through are battles. Yes, you're fighting alone in your room, but you're not fighting alone in this world. There are many people fighting like you, with problems. They're not willing or don't feel safe to share with the world. Or they've tried to share, but the world didn't accept them. Now, let's go into the solution part based on my experiences. Actually, I still feel that pain is a necessary ingredient of life. Sorry, that doesn't mean I have to seek pain. I seek happiness, not pain. Every morning I wake up, I don't need to invite pain, sadness, and unhappiness into my life. I don't need that. But if it happens, I only have one thing left, to see it as an ingredient for my growth, an ingredient that comes into my life like a lump of dough. It can totally become a delicious loaf of bread, but it can also totally become something rotten if left unused for too long, or if water gets in and it rots. This is a matter of perspective, and actually for me the most important thing is, okay, if you want, you can fight alone if you have to, because I've already mentioned 2 reasons. 1, not willing to share. 2, tried to share, but no one listened. Okay, you can fight alone, but remember that the first step to really fighting is taking responsibility for it. Actually, I see many people who are still fighting but don't want to take responsibility, and every day they think, why is this happening to me? I understand that there are injustices in this life. There are unlucky things. For example, if you possess a set of genes that are not healthy, then clearly you're unlucky. Not your fault, right? Your body is like that. Clearly you're unlucky. And of course, I understand you have every right to blame this life for being unfair to you, for making you unlucky. But we have to clearly separate these 2 things. There are things that are due to bad luck, but there are also things that are subjective. We don't take responsibility for the misfortunes that are not our fault, but we have to take responsibility for how we react when unwanted things happen. For example, on January 1st, you encounter something unpleasant that's not your fault, okay? Everyone agrees. You can cry for 2, 3, 5 days. You can lie down sad all day. You can skip work. You can allow yourself to be sad. No one has a problem with that. And I think it's even encouraged if possible, because you need to release it. But on January 10th, 10 days have passed. That's when responsibility has to take over. Because if we don't take responsibility, maybe on the 11th we'll continue to be sad, maybe on the 12th we'll continue to be sad, and maybe it'll continue into February, March, April, or even a year, 2 years, 3 years later. It still continues like that. So who's responsible for that failure? I'm afraid it has to be us because we didn't react well enough and kindly enough to ourselves. There are things we do for ourselves that show love for ourselves. We call it self-love. If we love ourselves, we'll do good things for ourselves. If we love ourselves, today, among many sad things, we try to redirect our thoughts. Okay, this is something I don't want, but I can't change it, I can't go back. And today I want to do something. Any solution, any idea, will do. I want to do something good for myself. Everything starts from there. For the battle you fight alone, you understand? When you fight alone, who is your ally? Who is your only friend? It's not your phone. Throw your phone away if you can, so you can focus more. Sometimes it's not even the pet you're raising, although it helps a lot, but the most reliable, most allied, and most helpful person is yourself. Saying this sounds cliche, but please remember, there are things that sound cliche, but aren't. Sometimes we hear too much, we find it boring, but that doesn't mean the thing we hear a lot and find boring is wrong. You have to help yourself, and you can only help yourself when you take responsibility for the problem, for the battle. And I want to clarify this one more time, because maybe many of you listening to this are sad, are facing problems, and sometimes you don't hear what I'm saying clearly. It's not that you take responsibility for someone else's mistake, but you take responsibility for how you react when the unwanted thing has happened. And from now on, what do we need to do that's really good for our lives? That's the highest sign of self-love today. Think about something. Ask yourself a very simple question. What is one way I can make my life better right now? I don't want to continue being sad like this forever, and I don't want to do something stupid. I desperately want to know something good that can help me. I'm also hesitant to say this because it might unintentionally touch your sadness. I've talked about this in a show called Sharing Joys and Sorrows. That show was small scale, and the audience was familiar, so sometimes they understood. But when I post on a public channel with many followers, there might be people from different cultures, families, and regions who might not understand that perspective. But anyway, when I think about it, I think that if it's necessary, I should say it. It might help some people who are facing psychological problems. There's a saying they're very sensitive to. They're very sensitive when they hear someone say, "Why don't you go out and do something? Staying at home makes you sad." They hear it and get angry, and I understand their frustration. Surely these people want to go out. Those who are facing psychological problems, but they may feel tired when going out. They may be hurt by someone, causing their current anxiety, so they no longer trust others and feel unsafe going out, right? And if you tell them, "Why don't you go out and do something? Staying at home all the time makes you sadder," then you're touching their pain because it's not that they don't want to, but they have a reason. I understand this very well, but once I met someone who was also facing psychological problems, and they also told me they hated that sentence. That's when I told them, "Actually, I understand why you feel that way. You receive a lot of advice, knowledge, information, even science, but there's a lack of love and affection in it. Sometimes someone advises because they think it's good for you, but they haven't really asked themselves if it's really good or not. But I'm telling you, sometimes, among all the annoying advice, there might be a few useful ones, and if you try, who knows, it might actually be helpful." You may not like going out and interacting with people. You may feel anxious when you go to a supermarket and see many people, and suddenly you want to be home alone, but you don't necessarily have to go to those places. Now try to think about going out to a place where you feel completely safe. Try thinking about it. Maybe it's good for you. Now let me think for you. Go to the park, bring a pair of shoes and run there. There are no people who will harm you. It's not too crowded, especially if you go early in the morning. And the people you hate the most aren't there. People who can harm you aren't there. Try testing it. Go out for a run or a walk to breathe fresh air, to get in touch with someone, to get vitamin D, to sweat, to be healthy. Sometimes after running, you feel hungry and stop for a bowl of beef noodle soup. Maybe for months, this is the first time breakfast tastes so good. Why not try it? It all lies in the fact that this battle is not what I want, but I take responsibility to make my life better. And two, I will find a way, even ordinary, no need for anything fancy, anything trivial. If it smells good to me and it's not negative, I will try. And sometimes it's as simple as putting on shoes, going out to the park, and running and trusting the process. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, everything improves, right? I forgot to mention that, for example, when you run, you get thirsty. Do you drink water too? Because I know many people stay at home, sad, and don't drink water. This is just a story, a real example in a specific situation. But in reality, there are countless problems. I can only say that if you have to fight alone, then twist your mindset around. Twist it in a way to reject the mistakes that aren't yours. But at the same time, take responsibility for what you can do in the present. And every day, ask yourself important questions. What positive thing can I do right now? I want to try. I want to show love to myself. I want to practice self-love. And gradually, things will change, although it may not be fast. Of course, I still think there are people who can help you. Therapists who specialize in psychology. Sometimes, you need someone and tell them everything, and it's all right. People who have battles to fight alone, what do they lack the most? They lack listening and understanding. And you'll have those things in places like don't think that going to those places means you're crazy or mentally ill. No, it's a sign of courage. Like Mr. Scott Peck, author of the book The Road Travel, he said he's a psychiatrist. And he really appreciates those who choose to seek psychiatrist support. Because at that time, bravely admitted that he had a problem and needed help. That very action is the act of self-help. It's very important. It's the form of a person who cares about themselves and often asks the question, what should I do to be really good? Maybe when asking that question over and over again, they've been brave enough to seek help. Money. Yes, it's important to earn it, right? It's hard to spend money for someone to listen to you, and many people may not accept that. But actually, this is not meaningless, and it's valuable. Many of you buy phones worth tens of millions, and buying a phone or a bag worth tens of millions may not be a form of self-love. With all the love and appreciation for the audience, as well as the lessons learned from myself, as well as from what I've observed, I just hope to bring you a gentle enough article to share with you in a battle that you may not be able to tell anyone, so that you first see that you're not alone in facing such problems. You feel less lonely. Second, I also contribute a little about the method, although it's very basic. We can't ask someone who has a cold or a fever to lift weights. Lifting weights is for people with normal physical conditions, right? So with knowledge, it's the same. You're okay, you're fine. I can guide you through a bunch of scientific things I've learned. But when you're hurt, when you're sad, what's the point of me giving you concepts? I think giving you love would be more appropriate, and I hope you feel my sentiment. I wish you lots of joy, good health, and you will definitely win a battle, even if you may be alone.